the biggest deal killer does not tend to be minor legal things that pop up later on. They tend to be things that are financial that weren't addressed up front and that seller either doesn't understand or didn't anticipate. And working capital is a perfect example of that, especially in some smaller deals. I mean, chances are your average business owner that's got a $500,000 a year EBITDA business doesn't have like a super great grasp of like what working capital is or why it should be included in a business. What they think is that's my AR because my business earned that AR and I'm not going to give it to you. And they think that way about things like inventory and they think that way about things like cash, right? And
Correct.
so having that conversation, and I think the hardest part is in stock deals, when we end up doing stock deals, for sellers to understand like, look, we're buying a company and the company owns all these assets, right? That's not your bank account. That's the company's bank account. We're buying a company with these bank accounts. And here are the expectations about what that bank account is going to have in it when we close. And so the hard part there is number one, identifying the issue. And then number two, how to communicate that issue to the seller. We can't generally count on brokers or intermediaries or bankers to explain that to the seller, which is who ideally should be doing it, right? They should be preparing them for the marketplace of buyers as it exists today.
Yeah.
And my cynical perspective on that is they just want to get them under contract and get them to market and either find a sucker buyer or find a buyer that doesn't care. And maybe we ratchet down the purchase price and get it to close. It doesn't matter. But if you're a broker that comes in and starts talking about working capital, that's going to make your sales pitch a little bit tougher, right? The incentives are just not there for those brokers to be the ones educating them. That's when we are just desperately hopeful for a seller that understands things and that is a little bit open-minded about it, as opposed to someone that's got their heels dug in. The hard part for me is if the lawyer is the one doing that educating, the seller tends to get very defensive because they don't trust the other side's lawyer. And I don't blame them for that, right? I don't trust lawyers either. It just is what it is. And so a lot of times I encourage my clients to, in the spirit of like confidence and kindness, like explain this to the seller, use whatever metaphors are out there, gas in the car or whatever, to describe that working capital and why we're buying the business as a going concern. It has to include these things. Or this bank is writing a check, but they are only writing a check this big. If you want more money than that, I will pay it to you, but it's going to take time and you're going to have to sign all these scary subordination documents from the bank. But it's the only way of getting the deal done. And also what I always like to do is kind of plant those psychological seeds because we have to overcome all these psychological hurdles with the seller. We can also use that to our advantage, right? Where it's like, look, I know you don't love this deal, but this is how you can get to your purchase price. And we will put, like we just did a deal that we closed where the seller was getting 1.9 million at closing and with the $800,000 seller note, right? They were worried about a lot of stuff, but we kept telling them, we're your fastest to close. We're good buyers and you will have $1.9 million hit your bank account on Friday. If you don't like our offer, you are going back to market and you never know what kind of burdensome financial due diligence you're going to get. You don't know what the debt markets are going to do. You don't know what the marketplace is going to do in the next couple months. Anytime that you can promise certainty and speed, I think is a helpful way of overcoming some of those hurdles.